All right. So, welcome everyone, and thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here this evening and for your patience with our technical difficulties. I am Delegate Angela Williams Graves, and I have the honor and privilege of having the Speaker of the House, Delegate Eileen Filler-Corn, here with me this evening. And we are going to take a little bit of time and talk to you about how a bill becomes a law. And if anybody out there is, let's see, maybe under 50, you remember Schoolhouse Rock? I'm just a bill. I'm only a bill. That's where I got this idea from, and making sure and a desire to want to make sure that our constituents understood how a bill became a law, the processes that it goes through, and the work that your General Assembly legislators work through every year as we take things from a bill. How does it become a bill? What is that process to get it through the General Assembly and then to get it signed into law? So thank you again so much for taking the time to be with us and for adjusting your schedule to meet our technical needs. And I'm just going to take a moment to introduce Speaker Filler-Corn, and then we're going to jump into our presentation. She'll have a few words, and then we're going to jump into our presentation. So Eileen Filler-Corn is the first woman in the 400-year history of Virginia's legislature to serve as Speaker of the House of Delegates. And what that really means is she's the woman in charge, okay? Under her leadership as minority leader, Virginia's legislature flipped blue for the first time in a generation and became a national leader in progressive change. Since she was elected Speaker, the Virginia House of Delegates has made landmark progress on gun violence prevention bills, expanding voter rights, improving the lives of working families in the Commonwealth, environmental rights, and making our criminal justice system more fairer, among so many other things. Prior to her election to the House, she served in the administrations of Governors Mark Warner and Tim Kaine. She proudly represents the 41st House District, which includes parts of Fairfax Station, and West Springfield. And what's not here is her most important job, and that is she's a mom. And I see her on Facebook all of the time with her beautiful children. They're doing great things as well as little citizens in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for being here and for taking the time to help my constituents and yours to understand how a bill becomes a law.
Well, thank you so much, Delegate Williams Graves, for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here with you all. I'm so excited about this presentation, and I love that you put this together. I think it's so amazing that folks are going to learn more about our legislative process. It's so important, and when I think about what really is important, it's the work that we do, the bills that we pass. They impact Virginians' lives, obviously, every single day. So having the ability to transform Virginia's, all of you as citizens, your ideas and your wants and your needs and suggestions into law it is the most important thing we do in the General Assembly. So I think it's a wonderful idea, Delegate Williams Graves, to do this. And, in the last year and a half that since we have flipped Virginia blue, since I have been Speaker, we have made so much progress as you have shared on so many issues. And maybe we'll get into some of that a little bit later. I know we have this presentation to do first. There's so many critical issues before us, and you all as citizens have an opportunity to be part of the process. And it's our responsibility as legislators to be open and transparent about how our government functions. So I'm really excited to be here and have the opportunity to delve into it deeper and take a look at the way it works, and to be here also with Delegate Williams-Graves to answer any questions. But Delegate Williams-Graves, let me just say thank you for everything that you have done in your brief tenure here. I'm here to say to all of your constituents that you all are extremely lucky to be represented by Delegate Angela Williams-Graves. Talk about somebody who just hit the ground running. Obviously, she was in the city council, so she knew the hard work. She knew about giving back to the community, and and also is an expert on so many different issues and important issues that's so important to you all. And she's somebody that also recognizes the importance of being out in the community and listening and then acting. And for those of you that don't know, Delegate Williams-Graves is a member of the Public Safety Committee, County, Cities, and Towns, and Agriculture, Chesapeake, and Natural Resources. And I believe also I've appointed you to the Brown versus Board of Education Scholarship Committee. So I thank you for everything you have already done and will continue to do, and just wanted to make sure I had that opportunity to tell all of your citizens, all of the residents of your district, how fortunate I think they are to have you representing them. And with that, I turn it back over to you so you can kick off our presentation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It has definitely been a great learning opportunity for me, but it has been very rewarding in the short period of time to do the work that we do in the General Assembly. And the work that we do is so impactful and it changes lives. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that folks understood how a bill becomes a law. So how does a bill become a law in the Commonwealth of Virginia? So the beginning of a bill is really just it's an idea. It can come from a constituent. It can come from a lobby group. It can come from a special interest group. It's an idea, or someone can identify something that is wrong with our code, something that either doesn't add up, doesn't make sense, maybe is outdated, maybe is antiquated. Also, in bills, there can be some things that just need cleaning up. A lot of our legislation is very old, and so it just kind of needs modernizing and cleaning up. So bills can start from an idea or from a lot of different sources to help to change existing laws or add laws that are necessary to the books. Only a member of the House of Delegates or the Senate can introduce a bill. So there's a very formal process. We have a great body of legislative staff in the Virginia General Assembly that work in the state, and they are amazing and incredible and incredibly talented individuals. And so there's a process for bills to be introduced by the House of Delegates member or a senator. And then the bill can be a new law, it can be a change, or it can do away with an existing law.
And Delegate
so
Williams-Graves,
when we go to committee, go ahead.
Delegate Williams-Graves, if you can go back to I was just going to add too, I know some people might be asking, if you can go back to the last slide, some people might be asking, well, if only a member of the legislature can actually introduce the legislation, that how are they involved? And it's all about just communicating. Most of our really good ideas for bills come from you all. They come from constituents. And so you have an opportunity to send an email to Delegate Williams-Graves, meet her, sit down with her, have a cup of coffee, talk to her at a town hall meeting, and just let her know that you have an idea for a bill. And then we can go through the process. But that's how the public is involved.
Absolutely. And at the end of our presentation, we'll have all of our contact information, just in case you don't have it. It will be at the end of our presentation. So if you have any ideas, you can send them over. If you're in my district, or if you're in the speaker's district, you can send them over to us. So once a bill is introduced and it is registered, it goes to committee for study. So tell us a little bit about the committee process, Madam Speaker.
Well, yeah, it's it sounds probably a lot more complicated maybe than it is, because we have different committees. So we have the House and Senate each have their own committees, and so that obviously the House members have their own set of committees, and sometimes they have a similar name, but often it's different in the Senate. So the House has 14 committees, the Senate has 11, and what the committee does is the committee takes the time to actually study the bill. To see, does it make sense? Is the way it's written? Is there, the drafter, have they, is it good the way it is? Do we need to make some changes? Sometimes they find unintended consequences. I mean, we try to avoid that at all costs, but that's the time also when you have stakeholders involved, organizations, individuals, groups that all get to participate in the process. And this is also an opportunity for the public to speak to the bill as well. So we also have an opportunity for public input. And now, since COVID, Delegate Williams-Griggs, we also now have the opportunity for individuals to participate virtually as well.
Right. I think that's a great opportunity. That's one of the good things I believe has come out of COVID, because it was very interesting to me. I just kind of didn't realize that in the committees, there can be long discussion, and sometimes there are time lengths, and things don't always, the entire agenda doesn't always get taken care of. And so if someone traveled 2 or 3 hours to be able to speak at a committee meeting on behalf of a bill, they wouldn't get the opportunity to do so. So one of the beautiful things that has come out of COVID is the use of technology to be able to allow citizens to sit wherever it is that they are, log in, and have their say, if you will, and give their input into bills as they come before the General Assembly. So that's really that is really a cool thing.
And lots of time we get ideas from you all, or from ourselves or from some of our colleagues. But until we really get out in the community and talk to, as I mentioned, stakeholders or other organizations and all of the public, really, who are experts in so many different areas, we don't know if it necessarily could work that way, or if it has unintended consequences. How useful would it be? And there are times we then change our mind, and we see, after hearing from you all, the public, that it might not be the best bill the way it's written, or it may have unintended consequences, or perhaps we need to make some sort of change, or we just need more time to study it.
Right. Now, when we go into committee, before we get to reporting, because sometimes every bill is not just a bill that simply changes a law with no financial impact. A lot of times there are bills that change laws and there is a financial impact. And so when there is a financial impact, that requires us to provide a budget amendment as well, right? So we ask for the money that we feel like we need in order to make this happen, in order to if it's standing up a new department, or if it's adding a overseer or some other staff member, or if it's streamlining services, we have to do those budget analysis in order to make sure that we don't just have a bill, but we have a bill and we have money to go with that bill.
That's right. Because sometimes exactly. Sometimes we pass a really good bill, and if there's no money, we can't move forward on it. And we're fortunate to have, we have a wonderful appropriations chair in Chairman Luke Torian, who leads us there, and we've got committee members. So yeah, there are many times when a bill will go before multiple committees, and it could, let's say the idea is a good one in concept, and it passes the committee. They might pass it, report it out, but then send it up to appropriations, as you mentioned, where they have to look and say, this might be a great idea, but we don't have the money this year. So you're right.
Absolutely.
It gets a little complicated sometimes.
So once the bill goes through committee, it is reported out. And if the committee agrees that the bill would make a good law, then it reports it to the House or the Senate. There may be amendments to it. There may be changes to the bill. And then after listening to all of the information, then that particular bill goes to, it's reported and it goes to the floor for action. So Now, in floor action, that's a very unique interaction, if you will. um, Coming from the city council and coming into the General Assembly, it is a much more formal environment on the floor when you have bills turned in, and then they're printed on the calendar and they are read 3 times, and then there's the opportunity for now we have opportunity for the entire chamber to interact and ask questions of the patron of that bill. So that can kind of get a little heated sometimes,
Yeah,
right,
sometimes,
Madam
yeah,
Speaker?
absolutely. I mean, sometimes we can debate a bill for a long, long time. Obviously, it is up to the speaker how long we continue those discussions and debates. But you're right. Sometimes it gets heated, and sometimes it's also very, very lengthy. And sometimes, often there's a lot of substance and substantive questions and comments. But there are times when some of us just want to say things even if it's been said already, and debate can go on and discussion can go on for a long time. That happens sometimes, doesn't it? Delia Williams-Graves.
It does. It does. And then part of your job is to keep order as well, right? When we're in that floor, when we're on the floor and we're in the chamber, part of your job is to crack the whip and keep order and make sure that the input that's being given is substantive, and that it's not redundant, and that we're moving in the right direction.
That's right. We always want to be open and transparent, but we also want, I also want to provide the opportunity for, for members to share their concerns or to ask their questions or state their positions, because they too, every member represents 80,000 individuals, and want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Having said that, we have a lot of bills, we have a lot of work to do. And as you know, we are often there for hours upon hours as is. So you're right. We're trying to, try to give everyone an opportunity, but keep things running smoothly.
Right. And this year it was a little bit different because, and so it's my first year. I don't have anything to compare it to, but this year we were all virtual. So I spent an incredible amount of time right where I am now in my office, looking at my computer screen, because committee meetings were virtual, not only for constituents weighing in with their concerns and input, but also for our chamber, because we were taking the proper safety precautions to ensure the health and safety of not only our members, but also our staff. And, we all look really great and we really look like we know what we're doing, but we have great staff that makes us, that are there behind the scenes. And I applaud Madam Speaker for taking the action to make sure that we not only were we safe, but also that staff was safe as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and absolutely, you're right. We, as you mentioned, this was our first session we had basically when I became speaker in 2020. We had one session in person with all of us together. And then the day we adjourned sine die was the day the governor declared the state of emergency, and the rest of our sessions were all virtual. So,
wow.
You're right. And that was a challenge. I was in person every day, but it was just a handful, very few handful of staff. But you're right. Our amazing IT staff and all of our staff are just do incredible work to allow us to really conduct the business of the legislature so that we can, pass good bills and impact the lives of Virginians. But you're right. A lot of this was, it was different this year with COVID, as all of our lives were impacted.
Absolutely. That is for sure. So once a bill gets to the floor, there are there are rules for speaking, and then there are 3 readings. The first reading is basically kind of like the announcement of the bill, and it's read and it moves on. The second reading is when there's amendments that can be made or debate on the bill, that friendly exchange that is made between House members about the bill. And then in that debate, again, amendments can be made to the bill at that time. And by the third reading of the bill is then read and it is put to a vote. And so we will vote to pass the bill or not pass the bill. We'll vote it up, down, and then there's kind of a maybe when we pass it by. And so that just means that there may be some more work that needs to be done on the bill, and or maybe a legislator may want to add or remove something from the bill. Is that about right on the passing it by?
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very formal, and and I think very few people realize that there are actually 3 readings, and that it's not debatable at every reading. There's only one time, that's the second reading when you can ask questions. It's very formal, a lot of process, a lot of procedure, so a lot of rules for everybody to learn. But again, this is the way it's done, and this is what we're used to doing.
Right. It is a very formal process. I thought that was very interesting. So once a bill goes through and is passed in the House, it has to also go through the Senate. So you all may have heard the term crossover. We're at crossover. If you get my newsletter, we're at crossover. So what that means is that everything that has been passed in the House goes to the Senate, and they go through the same process. And then every bill that has been passed in the Senate comes over to the House, and we go through the process so that they have to marry one another and make sure that our laws are created in a democratic fashion, and that both houses have the opportunity and share the responsibility to be able to create and pass laws. So the committee structure, the whole 9 yards, it all goes back through the Senate. Senators who have championed bills, or who have patron bills rather, over in the Senate, they come before our committees in the House, and they will plead their case, if you will, in the House, and then we do the same. We will we will present rather our bills in the Senate for Senate consideration, and there may be amendments that are made there. And so at that term crossover is where all the bills just cross over. And if the House and Senate agree and we end up with one bill that everyone agrees on, so it's 150 people that have to agree on this bill, then it goes to the governor's office for approval. And so can you talk a little bit, Madam Speaker, about what the options are with the governor's office when bills, when everybody can get on one accord and vote together and make a bill happen?
And something else that's interesting, lots of times stakeholders, organizations, groups, citizens come to us and, they ask if we support their bill. And, I often, obviously we have an answer, yes, even if it's yes, but we also have to let them know that in order for a bill to be signed into law, it's got to get to the governor. In order for a bill to go to the governor, it's got to pass both bodies. And so that's important to remember, that even if the House passes it does not mean it's going to become law if either the Senate does not pass it or the governor does not sign it. So the governor has several different options. He can sign the bill, and after it crosses over and passes the House and Senate, it automatically becomes law. He can amend the bill. So then he has the opportunity to change the bill. And then if he changes it and amends it, it goes back to the House for approval. Or he can veto the bill just outright and say, nope, I'm not signing it. And the bill does not become law. And so those are really, I guess also no action. The bill becomes law if the governor does not sign or veto the bill as well. I think the one piece that I always feel like that most Virginians have a question about is they think that if you pass the bill in your body, in our case, the House, then the governor will have an opportunity to sign it. And I have to remind them, I'm sure you do too. So what that also means is when you're drafting a bill, working on an idea, or working with stakeholders to try to get them to understand that even if the bill is going to originate in the House and we have the patron, Sometimes there can be a House patron and a Senate patron, but even if it's just, in the House, you have to make sure that they're also lobbying and working the bill in the other body, because it has to pass both bodies.
Right. Right. And we have had some bills that have kind of fallen by the wayside because individuals may or may not have known if they were championing a bill that had been patroned by a delegate in the House, and they didn't do the championing on the Senate side. They probably have to come back at a later date and go back through that process again to get the Senate support as well as having the House support, and then it going to the governor for his signature.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I want to share with you just a little bit. This is a bill that was very near and dear to my heart, and it was so practical, in my opinion, anyway. And how this was one of the first bills that I was able to patron and get passed, and actually walk through that process that we spoke about. So it was House Bill 2204. And it regulates the child care services. It's the regulation of child care services. If you are having a daycare or child care service in your home or in a small location with less than 9 children. And this is an example of really like a cleanup, because this bill was already on the books. But what happened was the bill did not include incorporated cities like Norfolk. It included counties, it included towns to be able to regulate childcare if there's less than 9 children, but it did not include incorporated cities. And so as a member of council, I was championing an economic development piece that a constituent had brought to me, and it required us to have, because Virginia is a Dillon Rule state, it required us to have the proper framework with regard to legislation in order to be able to enact that particular piece of that economic development initiative. And so this was just a bill that had not only the economic development impact, but it also was a practical matter of making sure that if a parent is taking their child to somewhere, to someone to watch that child, babysit that child, put that child in daycare, and there's 3 or 4 children there, and that person or those individuals are keeping children on a regular basis, there should be a registry for that. There should be, somebody should know that there should be minimum requirements. And so the bill is not a mandatory bill, but it is permissive, which means that the locality can enact their own city ordinance with the parameters that they choose in order to utilize legislation that is already in place, and they can set the parameters that they want for registration. They can require the people to know CPR. They can require them to have a business license. They can do all or none or some, but it does give them the opportunity to do that where they did not have the opportunity to do that before. So we introduced the bill January 22nd. It was printed and ordered, and it was referred to the Committee for Cities, Counties, and Towns. And then it was assigned to a subcommittee on the 26th. And as we progressed through subcommittee, it reported out. We got great support from the committee in cities, county, cities, and towns. And I sit on that committee, but I also had to present to my committee and help them to understand the importance of the bill and why it should become law. It was read on February 1st for the first time, the second read with some interesting debate on February 2nd. And then on February 3rd, it passed the House 56-43. And then it went over to the Senate. And so I had to do the same thing all over again. In the Senate, I had to go to the Committee on Local Government. I had to speak before the Senate and explain to them why the bill was important. We didn't. We didn't get a rave review on that the first time around, and so I had to actually make some phone calls, and I had to talk to some folks, and tell them, hey, this is what this bill is really about. And so this is where
Delegate Williams-Graves. Yeah, I just wanted to add, so just so everybody knows, it's not always easy, and it takes, I mean, you all are well represented by Delegate Angela Williams-Graves. So first of all, the fact that she stood up for her constituents and it made this change, introduced this bill, as she said, it was, more of a change. Why? Because it was important to her, to you all, her constituents. That's what you need in a delegate, someone who's willing to go out there, listen, understand what's important to her community and move forward. And that's what she did in introducing this bill. And what she's saying too, which is really important, is it's not exactly the same when you're introducing a bill or you're going through the committee process in the House as it is in the Senate. And you need to work all the members. You do. They need to understand why you're introducing this. They need to understand, are there any unintended consequences? What are the pros? What are the cons? She also really worked hard that you have to work with stakeholders and organizations and community leaders to make sure other people are advocating for this bill, so that if there's, for instance, a member of the House or Senate that may not agree or may not understand, all of a sudden you work with other stakeholders and other groups and organizations, and they're calling that member saying, this is why this bill matters. I need you to support this. So it's a lot of work. She's doing a great job. It's not easy.
And it's a collaboration. I mean, it's about building relationships, and it's a collaboration, and it's also taking the time to make sure that people understand what it is that, because we have a limited amount of time often when we go before committee, because there is an agenda. And so if there are objections to it in committee, you definitely want to work through those before it gets to the floor, so that everybody is, on the same page when it comes to a vote. So the bill reported out of local government with an 8-4 total there, vote tally, and then it passed the Senate chamber. When was this? On the 24th. Final passage was on the 24th of February, 21-18. So I was really proud of that, because again, it was just a very practical piece of legislation. And then it was communicated to the governor on March 1. It was signed by the Speaker on February 26th, signed by the President of the Senate on February 27th, and then it was communicated to the governor on March 1st. And that just was one of those opportunities that I felt that my being in the General Assembly really, really mattered, because this bill went a long way and will go a long way to protect children in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I'm really excited about it. The governor signed it into law, and as of July 1st, now localities have the ability to be able to pass their ordinances with the parameters that they choose to regulate child care facilities in the Commonwealth as it pertains to any number of children. And I think that's a really important thing. Yep.
That's amazing.
So I'm going to see if let me see if we have questions here. While I'm checking questions, Madam Speaker, can you kind of tell us what you do other than keeping order? What is it that the Speaker of, it's a really fancy title, but what is it that you do?
Sure. So the Speaker is a presiding officer for the House. So basically, I am leading everybody through procedure, overseeing the session business. It's my job to make sure that everything, as you mentioned earlier, runs smoothly. Whether we're convening for special session or the Capitol for session, that everybody is following rules. We've got a lot of procedure, a lot of rules, a lot of history, that we're getting things done in a timely manner. The Speaker also always chairs the Rules Committee. I also handle all the appointments, all the members, assigning the members to committees, who's going to chair committees. all of that. I have the opportunity to refer all the bills to committees to figure out which bills will go to which committee. And it's also my responsibility to help lead our Democratic members in any way I can, which means helping them pass their bills, providing advice, resources, making sure that their voice is heard and that they have a seat at the table and they're representing you all, and making sure they have the opportunity to represent you and that they have a say in any and all of the issues that they care about. So it is a huge job. It's a tremendous honor. As Delegate Williams-Graves said, it's hard to believe it took 400 years to have the first woman speaker, but it did. Coincidentally, as I said, we had one session. I had one session in person, regular, looking out at the dais at everybody, and then after that, it was virtual. But we are going back to in person, and I feel very fortunate to had this opportunity and have this opportunity to continue to impact Virginians' lives. And one thing I know a lot of people ask, one of my they ask what am I most proud of, and I always say this because it's true, that one session that I was there in person with everyone, sitting on the dais after I had been sworn in, looking out at everybody, at all the faces of our members, and just seeing the diversity of perspective, of race, of religion, of gender, of sexual orientation, of perspective. And why that's so important is that there are constituencies that never had a voice before, never had a voice. And now they have a seat at the table. And what I've realized too is that diversity helps in providing better bills, coming up with, not just coming up with the ideas, that's helps as well, but the details, the nuances in every single bill that we pass that impacts Virginians' lives. It's different. It's better as a result of our being open, welcoming, inclusive, and a diverse body such as we have now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that has become abundantly clear to me just in the short period of time that I've been in the General Assembly is the need for Democratic leadership, especially now, because it is important that we are inclusive of every single Virginian, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their race, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of who they love, that we are inclusive in the legislation that we pass, that we're taking care of working families, that we're taking care of small businesses also, that we're taking care of, all of the individuals. The Commonwealth, people use that word, but the Commonwealth is made up of people. We say citizens and we call you constituents, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people, and we're talking about providing for the quality of life for people who reside within the boundaries of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think that's very important. And that's something that I know that this caucus of Democrats takes very seriously. Absolutely. In the House of Delegates, and that we really do fight for every single day in all of the legislation that we put forth. We're considering the whole, not just a small group of individuals who all think alike, but we're considering those people who don't think the way that we do. We're doing things that benefit folks, even if they're not in our party, even if disagree with their philosophy. Our laws, we don't have the privilege of making laws that just benefit Democrats.
Right. These are issues that have been so important to us for a long time as Democrats. And, again, as I've said before, elections have consequences and candidates matter. And now we have the opportunity to go beyond giving those great speeches about what we want to do and why we want to do it. Now we actually also have the votes behind us, and we can move forward. And we have created a better, more open, welcoming Commonwealth. And I'm so proud of all of our accomplishments to date in the last 18 months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we received a question. I've read about special session. It begins on August 2nd. What is special session, and what occurs during special session?
Sure. So a special session is called Outside of Our Normal Session. And, and our normal session begins every January for 45 or 60 days. And that's when the legislature, we obviously, that's what we're talking about when we go into session, we, have all of our bills. But this is a special session. So we are reconvening specifically to focus on how to allocate the ARP, the COVID-19 relief funds that Virginia received as a result of the Biden administration's American Rescue Plan. And we're fortunate enough here in the Commonwealth of Virginia to have $4.3 billion to allocate. So I've been spending a lot of time, working with leadership, with Chairman Torian, the appropriations staff, the House, the Senate, and the administration on how can we spend the money. In other words, how can we help those Virginians that need it the most? And we were able to do a lot of that during a couple special sessions we had during the middle of COVID. And now we're fortunate enough to have a substantial amount of money to, again, move forward. So, as far as your general question, just a special session, often is called for a specific purpose. And, so this specific special session that we're going back for on Monday is for the American Rescue Plan budget allocation and also for us to confirm judges. But back in February, we had to call a special session to give us, time to pass all the bills that we wanted to. We had a few other special sessions too. So.
And that was 4.8 billion, correct? With a B, dollars that we're going to allocate.
That's
with
right.
the B.
Yep.
4.8 billion.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I really do appreciate you being here with us. I'm trying to get up my last slide. Here we go. My last slide here. That's all our contact information. We thank all of those who joined in, and to those who will watch the replay. This will replay on our Facebook page, and it will also upload to the YouTube page as well. And you can watch it again and share it with your friends and share it with folks that you know, because it is very important that people understand what it is that we do. I remember being on council. We were on television every week. So people knew what we did every week. They knew. Wow. And they had a comment about it, right?
If you don't mind, I just would like to, I wanted to commend you for putting this together. I think it's fabulous. And I am thrilled to have you as a member of our caucus. And I think you have made, you made remarkable change already. And, I'm looking forward to all that you're going to do. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell everyone, as I mentioned earlier, that, we do have, elections matter and elections have consequences. This is a crucial election that we're heading into. We have made so much progress. We have moved Virginia forward on so many different issues. And made the Commonwealth more open and welcoming, and we are still we're number one in the country for business. But we showed really that we can be pro-growth and pro-worker. We showed that we can govern responsibly and govern progressively. We have we've done so much, but I'm here to tell you that if we don't work hard this election, all of that progress could be rolled back, and we will not allow that to happen. We're on the right side of the issues. We've made progress. We must continue. And so I just hope everybody, look at what we've done with voting rights alone. We went from being the 49th in the country, the level of difficulty voting, to being the 12th. So again, elections matter. Right. We can do this. And I just wanted to thank you and, ask everyone to make sure they're out there voting and making sure that everybody knows just what's at stake and why it matters that we, the Democrats, continue to govern.
And, Madam Speaker, you make a very good point in as we wrap up, but to just think about some of the things that we have done in terms of legalizing marijuana, in terms of repealing the death penalty, in terms of the budget that we passed that gave state employees and teachers a 5% raise, in terms of your G3 program that allows individuals to get a skill, go to school, get a skill, get a trade, and go to work, in terms of being able to protect protect workers' rights. There are so many things that Democrats have done in terms of our criminal justice reform. A lot of the bills that came out of the former special session last year went into effect this year, and it really will change the trajectory of people's lives. And so it is very important. And you know, don't think for a minute that other parties are happy about changes that we've made. But if individuals and our citizens want to continue to see Virginia be a progressive state, a state that is moving forward, a state that is protecting workers and protecting families and protecting women and women's rights and protecting voters' rights, then it is absolutely imperative that you come out and vote in November. Life is not perfect, but I think we have done a really good job at making a tremendous improvement in the lives of the citizens, the people who are in the Commonwealth of Virginia every single day. So thank you, Madam Speaker, for being here. And thank you all for your time, for tuning in, for those of you who will tune in. And if you have questions, or if you're in my district, or if you're in the 41st district, you can reach out to either of us. Our contact information is here, and you can follow us on social media as well. But you can reach out to us and let us know what your ideas are, and we will engage with you, because we want to see the Commonwealth of Virginia be the best Commonwealth, the best state that it possibly can be. And we cannot do that without you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Speaker, again for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Delegate Williams-Graves. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much. Take care.
Great. Yeah.